not there. Now we are. So now I have to reach over, hit my live on the air button because, ladies and gentlemen, we are live once again at the weekly roundtable. Thank you for joining us this week. I'm one of your hosts, Frank Range Report Johnson, co-founder of the Liberty First Foundation. To my left or the right, depending upon what side of the screen you're sitting on, Michael Vasquez, Dragon of New York politics, the only truly independent journalist left in the industry. Independent and honest. Two things you don't get. And, of course, our alternative lifestyle specialist, Jan Rains, our favorite lesbian. She's coming to us from West Virginia. Jan, thank you for joining us this week. How's everybody doing so far?
Not too bad. Hey, I got my fake African stuff on.
You're auditioning for Coming to America Part 3.
Oh, yeah, they made it Part 2, didn't they?
Yeah, they made a Part 2, and God, it was awful.
I didn't see it. But then again, no one else did either.
I think I was one of the very few people that got roped into watching it because I was sitting on the couch. I wasn't feeling that well. And I thought it was Coming to America Part 1, and I clicked it, and I was like, this don't quite look the same to me.
Well, that was accurate.
And after about 7.5 minutes, I realized that I was trapped in the middle of a train wreck I could no longer avoid watching. So I had to sit there for the next hour and 45 minutes and say, what in the good God am I watching here?
What is wrong with you? You're like my sister. It's like, I've got to watch the series. Why? It was crap. Why are you doing that to yourself? But I've got to. No, you don't. Just turn it off. It's like Velma. They have season 2. It's crap. Don't watch it.
Well, listen, I'll give you a free example. They got the Oak Island show on TV, right?
The who?
Oak Island.
Oak Island.
Yeah, Oak Island. You don't know what? All right. There's an island off Nova Scotia.
Okay.
That rumor has it sometime back 300 years ago, somebody buried a treasure in such an elaborate way that it had all kinds of booby traps and underground tunnels and stuff that it would flood stuff. And for 200 years now, or better, people have been looking for this treasure. And there's been no evidence at all that anyone has ever found the treasure. And dignitaries, even FDR himself, was an investor in trying to find this thing. The show is called The Curse of Oak Island.
Okay.
And I think they're in season 11 or 12 now. And these two guys from Canada, the one's an oil magnate and the other one is a historian. They read about Oak Island when they were kids, and they've been infatuated with it since then. They have since then bought almost the entire island. Okay. And they have done sonar scans, digging, every kind of geological test you could possibly imagine. They've had satellites in outer space doing radar scans of the island, and they're doing these tests, and there are tunnels 200 and 300 feet underground. There's caves 200 and 300 feet underground that are full with water that they've done tests on. And they said, according to the saturation tests, there is a tremendous amount of silver and gold that is still buried on this island. And it could be anything. They're saying that speculation everywhere from it's the lost Ark of the Covenant to it's the treasures of the Second Temple of Israel.
You know what this sounds like to me? Geraldo Rivera going into Al Capone's vault.
No, well, here's the thing, though.
Which wasn't a big thing, by the way, folks.
Geraldo didn't find a damn thing.
No.
All right? But when these guys do, like, core drilling, like they do for wells, right? They drill a core, and they go down 300 feet. And they pull up giant chunks of oak wood that is carbon dated to 3,000 and 4,000 years old. That wood didn't get 300 feet underground by itself. It's physically impossible for it to have done so. It had to be placed there for a reason. And they've done all these tests and they've done all these scans, and they have a complete 3-dimensional map of everything that happened underground. And they ain't found shit yet. They just keep keep finding all the evidence of something happening there. Like there's drainage tunnels from the ocean, that there were tunnels dug thousands of feet laterally going down at like a 15-degree angle till it gets to this shaft, so that the shaft would be full of water. They were set for booby traps. They have all these shafts. How'd these shafts get there? There's evidence in there. There's material that carbon dates 500 years, 700 years, 1200 years. There's all kinds of evidence all over the place, but they still ain't found the treasure. But they fucking would.
See, but all you need to do is give Joe Biden some B12, catch him on a good morning, and ask him. He's old enough; he'll know.
Well, yeah, he might say, "Yeah, well, I remember being aboard Blackbeard's ship when we buried that treasure."
Probably.
Because that's another theory. They think it might also be Blackbeard's treasure. But I've been reading about Oak Island since I was a little kid, because I was always fascinated with mysteries and whodunits and stuff like that. And I've been reading about the history of Oak Island for since I was a little kid. I mean, 6, 7 years old. I remember I had an Oak Island coloring book, based on the history of it. So I keep looking at this show and I'm rooting for these guys. I'm like, they have spent tens of millions of dollars excavating every inch of this thing. And I'm like, dude, please find something. Not because I want to see the treasure. I just want to know that it's true. I just want some confirmation to say, you know what? 1,000 years ago, these people came to an island when they said that nobody was inhabiting North America at the time. And they did a feat of engineering so impressive that it rivals, what you find in Rome. Because if you look at some of the construction methods they used, very similar. I just want to see that. I always love the fact that we don't know. History is not definitive.
It's the history of the winner. It's the story of the winner.
Right. Everything that we know about history is through the eyes of one person or one party. I love when history upends itself and you find out that what you think was true was not. That maybe this guy didn't discover something. Maybe somebody did it years before. I look at things like the Antikythera mechanism that was found in the waters of the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
And this thing is just as complicated as a modern day wristwatch.
Yeah.
How was this thing made 2,500 years ago? I love the mystery because it just shows you how amazing the human brain is, that cultures could come up with this. I love seeing that kind of thing.
See, but sometimes the mystery is better than the fact. And I'll give you a great example. The bringing it all around to, the subject of the show. We have all the promises of socialism. We have all the promises of the progressives, how wonderful everything will be. Now we have Bidenomics, and unemployment is up to 3.9%. The national debt has increased. We're about to hit $35 trillion in debt. We are inflating ourselves. They're finally coming out, something I've been saying on this show for, 2 years now? Stagflation. Ooh, who's shocked? Not me. I've been saying this since August of 2022. So we're starting. So the mystery of the promise that, if we just give the government more control, if we just obey without any questions, things will be great and we will get everything we want. And then we get the reality, Biden, 4 years, and there isn't anyone in America who is happy and satisfied. There's no one in the globe that is happy and satisfied, because now we have the promise, the mystery. Could they have finally cracked it? Will the progressives get it right? And the answer is no, of course not. So, sometimes the mystery is better.
Well, that's because Donald Trump keeps stopping it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Michael Marshall has joined us from parts unknown, places unknown, at time unknown. He's in a very dark, dimly lit basement, it looks like. How are you doing, Marshall?
I'm doing good. How are you, Frank?
You're doing good. You snuck in and you were rather quiet. You were sitting there observing for a while.
Don't forget, you muted yourself, Mike.
Okay. Hold on.
Oh, He tried to turn the light off, and he turned the mic off instead. And
Well,
he did it
I
again.
just want to say that
Okay, now we got things set.
I got to go see Frank this week,
Yes.
and I tell you, he's a big teddy bear. Don't
Nah,
let him fool you.
He's a
No.
gentle giant.
not really. Well, listen, my gentleness is just about to expire. You remember my gun fiasco from last week?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. It just keeps getting worse. It just keeps getting worse. All right. So just so everybody knows, Jan's roommate Sue had a rifle that she wanted to get rid of, and I gave her some information on it, and I agreed that I would acquire the rifle. And it's Jan, so I don't care. Whatever. When it gets here, it gets here. Not a big deal. I know who Jan is. I know we're not getting anywhere. Jan and Sue made a special trip down to North Carolina this weekend to drop that rifle off to me, along with a little handheld crossbow that now I have arrows somewhere in my backyard that I have to go find with the metal detector. I can't aim that thing worth the damn. In any event, the company finally got my guns back to the original FFL so they could ship them out to me.
Right.
And they're shipping out on Monday, the day that Jan stopped at the house here. They emailed me a copy of the receipt, the tracking number, all the rest of that stuff. Guns are supposed to be at my FFL yesterday, Thursday. Delivery time, 9 p.m. The FFL closes at 8. So the gun get from the distribution center that they sat in for a day over to my FFL at 9 o'clock. There's nobody to take the guns. So what do they got to do? They're going to take the guns back and bring them over to the distribution center again, where they now sit overnight. Next morning comes, they put them on a truck, schedule them for delivery again at 9 o'clock at night. The FFL closes at 8. So now tomorrow, they're rescheduled for delivery again for tomorrow, but they don't have a time. And that's okay, because it might show up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. However, the problem is the young lady, Sarah, who works over at my FFL, who logs all the incoming firearms into the books for the ATF, she only works Monday through Friday. So even if the guns show up tomorrow, there'll be nobody there to take them in, because only she's authorized to take deliveries in, which means the guns are going to have to go back on the truck and then get rescheduled for Monday to go back to the FFL so she can take possession of them. And hopefully they show up before 5 o'clock, because that's when she leaves for work.
And this is why your blood pressure's up.
So I got a box of friggin' guns bouncing back and forth through the post office, guns that were not supposed to be shipped through the post office. Okay? Post office only handles firearms for law enforcement and military purposes. Any other firearms shipped in the United States have to go through a private facility such as FedEx, DHL, UPS, and so forth, not through the post office. The post office is only supposed to be able to ship black powder firearms or antique firearms. So I don't know what the hell this FFL up in Minnesota, or wherever the hell this idiot is. But now here's the thing. I want to ask you guys and gals a question. If you were the FFL and have so royally screwed the pooch that now the guns are 5 weeks late, 5 weeks late.
Right.
And you finally have now got the guns back in your possession, and you speak to the very accommodating, very patient, almost about to lose your shit customer on the phone, and you say, we screwed up, but we're going to make it, we're going to ship them down to you. How would you at that point ship them?
Overnight.
You would think.
You would think that you would say, I'm going to bite the bullet on this. I'm going to ship them overnight with return receipt requested so that it's there at a specific time. I'm not going to mess around. This son of a bitch chose to ship them down through the post office in the cheapest way possible because he already spent the money to ship them to Ohio the first time and had to pay to ship them to get them back because he screwed up. And
yeah, but that's on him. That's
right.
Their error, not yours.
Right. And now he chose the cheapest manner possible in order to ship them to me, the customer who's been waiting 5 friggin' weeks for his guns to come in. Now, I made a couple of mistakes when I was a general contractor. Either I ordered something wrong, something didn't look right, or whatever the case may be. In all of the hundreds of jobs I did as a contractor, I never, ever hit a customer with a receipt that said we had an overage. I spent too much money, we went over budget, or whatever the case is. If there was something that was wrong and it was my fault or my oversight, I bit the bullet, paid the fee, did it over, and made it better than it would have been had that mistake not taken place. My customer was always left whole or in better condition than previous to it. And the fact that we've got people in this country, in this world, it's bad enough we get screwed over every day by government. When you have small businesses in this country, and this country is founded, our whole economic system is based on the small enterprise, on small businesses. When you have small businesses that screw shit up and then screw the customer on top of it, you're doing a disservice to everybody in the industry, not only the gun industry, every industry, because it makes people reluctant to make any kind of deal with anybody that they don't know. People don't want to create new business with people that they don't know. Why is it hard to get new customers? Because people don't trust anybody. Why don't people trust anybody? Because a piece of shit like this guy in the FFL has no regard to what somebody else is inconvenienced, so long as he can minimize his loss on his screw up. It's accountability, and we have none of it in this country anymore. None of it. That's why our campuses look the way they do right now.
Well,
and that's my update for my friggin' guns. So I might get them sometime in September.
The way it's going, yeah. Go ahead, Jan.
It's ridiculous that, most the post office or any of these other UPS, they know what time businesses close. So, why is the post office, who usually delivers mail between a certain time and a certain time, delivering after that time?
I couldn't understand that either. I'm looking at the tracking information, and then here's the funny thing about the UPS. They got this thing on the tracking thing that says get more out of UPS tracking out of USPS tracking with USPS Tracking Plus. United States Postal Service Tracking Plus is a service that you can pay $5 more a month for so that you can better track the packages that they lose.
Yeah.
It'll give you updates. They will send you pictures of your package where it is, except they're not where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, well, that's always useless.
Why are they taking time?
I got a solution, Frank.
They're gonna now send me pictures of my package. Tell me, oh, your package is here. Look, we know where your package is. Yeah, but it's not at my house.
I got a solution, Frank.
Pony Express?
No, identify as a cicada. Just start screaming.
Yeah, that would do it. That would be one way. And since it's firearms, but then that gets into a whole other thing because it's firearms. The ATF can jump in at that point.
Here's the kicker. I called ATF. And said, hey, listen, I'm not dropping any names, but this is something I got it. Anybody, get back to me.
Wait a minute. You said that you reached out to them early last week. So it's a week and a half at least at this point.
I still have not heard a friggin' thing And I left them my phone number. Please call back to me. Please call me back. I wasn't going to name the name of the auction house. I wasn't going to give them the name of the FFL. I wasn't going to tell them what or how many I bought of what I bought. I just wanted to say, in this situation, what do I do? That's what I want to know. Should I contact Postal Service Police? Is this something that you should get involved with? If I don't receive my firearms, how do those firearms get reported missing? Because who's going to give you the serial numbers? Because that's all got to be documented now. And because now that they're sent and they're in the possession of somebody who's not an FFL, the federal government is not an FFL. That's why they're not supposed to take possession of the firearms through the post office.
No, I understand.
They can't, right. Not a single phone call back from them, which is another example of we will pass every goddamn law under the sun, bend every rule under the sun, make every rule behind closed doors that we'll ever make, but we'll only enforce them when it's convenient for us or when we find somebody who goes against our tenets that we could abuse. Otherwise, who gives a shit?
Yeah, it's government abuse. And this is a great example of that abuse where, gun control, it's supposed to make you so much better. This is what the ATF is for. Literally, this is what the ATF is there to try and take care of. And instead of addressing at any level this concern, no, their answer is we're just going to ignore it. And this is what we're spending. What's their budget again? Is it $1 billion or $10 billion? Something like that.
But think about it this way. Every government agency we have, name me a government agency.
EPA.
Okay. They're supposed to be out there to encourage that we have good environmental protection. They want to make sure the environment is good. They want to make sure we're following rules. Education. They're there to promote education. They want to make sure that everybody thinks of getting commerce. They want to make sure that the rule that commerce flows, smoothly and equitably, and everybody's I know.
That's what they're supposed to do. That's not what they do.
No, they put up roadblocks to make it more difficult. But I was like, even the agencies that make jobs more difficult for people to do, like commerce, fish and game, and all the rest of that stuff with all the regulations they put, like FDA, they put all these regulations, but they're still there to promote these things in a way to say that they're supposed to make them better. ATF is the only thing that we have in government who's specifically designed to repeal what they're designed to protect. Every one of those.
I get it. I get what you're saying.
Every one of those government organizations is designed to promote a healthier environment for what that organization is supposed to be overseeing, whether it's commerce, environment, education, infrastructure. They're all supposed to make sure things get better. ATF is the only one of these government bureaucracies whose sole purpose is out there to purposefully destroy the thing that it's supposed to oversee and make better.
Yeah, they restrict the Second Amendment rights of citizens, and that's essentially their purpose, is to restrict it.
To promote our rights, not restrict them. They're supposed to promote safety, not restrict it. They're supposed to promote that we all get educated and we could exercise our rights. When was the last time anybody heard ATF writing a new law about tobacco?
They don't anymore because they got the payment. They made a settlement on that.
What about alcohol? We don't hear them making booze busts anymore. There's still the Appalachians are still full of moonshiners.
Yeah,
they're still running around all over the place. You don't see them doing it. There's a freaking TV show on Discovery about them.
Yeah,
and they're putting the moonshiner shows you where he sells his stuff. He shows you where he lives, shows you where he keeps his shit. Did he get arrested?
Nope.
But some guy from Brooklyn decides he's going to 3D print a couple of guns. He goes to jail.
The moonshiner doesn't cross state lines. That's the excuse.
Neither did the guy in New York.
I can only I'm not saying that any of it's good. I tell you what the excuse is because that's the excuse they've given. But they got problems. I mean, and they're not the only ones who have these problems. I mean,
Well, the White House has huge problems. Do you see who hosted the White House press briefing?
the briefing
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
today?
yeah.
No.
They brought in Han Solo's sidekick.
What?
Mark Hamill.
Yeah, they brought in
What?
the Luke Skywalker.
Why? What?
I
Why?
don't know if they want. I guess if they want to try and promote a fantasy, who better than a Jedi to try and convince us that it's all reality?
To praise Biden.
This is
Why
not the
else?
economy you were looking for.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Look, I don't care that Mark Hamill's a Democrat or a crazy Democrat at that. I don't care if he's progressive.
actually don't care.
He's
Why
an
aren't they
actor.
bringing celebrities to do the White House press briefing?
Because this is about entertainment now. They have full on just admitted that this is all about a show. It is meant to distract and entertain rather than inform. There is no reason why any actor, I don't care who the actor is, should be handling any portion of the United States press briefing.
Well, listen, this has got Barry's hand all over it.
Well, they never have.
Barry was the entertainment president. He was the one that had to insist that the White House was full of every who's who whore from Hollywood, to go over there and entertain and kiss the ring.
But even Obama didn't have a celebrity host the White House press briefing.
No, I think a couple of them graced the podium over the years. I don't know if they took the questions, but I know that there had to be a couple of them that came in there to spread the propaganda.
But not for the U.S. press briefing, that for the White House. They've been there for other departments. Matthew McConaughey went in and he was talking about gun control, which is stupid because
It's the authority.
But he was there. Okay, I get that. But that's a lower level of government. It is a different department. We're talking about the press briefing where we have supposedly the major news media organizations of the world trying to find out the sense and intent of the United States government on issues that affect every nation, every economy, every aspect of freedom and liberty in the world, as we are in massive conflict in 2/3 of the world. We have the Ukraine-Russia war, which has massive impact on other countries, as well as the Middle East, which is having massive impact on multiple countries. We have ISIS that has been released and resurging. And we have massive problems with China and the Philippines, and therefore threatening Taiwan, Japan, South Korea. We have massive, 2/3 of the world is in massive conflict, and they're wasting everyone's time having Mark Hamill, an actor, a voice actor, do what? There's nothing that he can say that is important enough for him to be on that podium talking to the world. I don't care if he wants to give a campaign speech. Man, this is literally campaigning through entertainment. This is corruption of our government at the highest levels. I don't care if people like Mark Hamill or not. And I love him as Luke Skywalker. I don't like his politics. But there is no reason. That's like saying, you know what? If they ask me to go up and just be a guest speaker at the White House at the press briefing, I tell them no. It's not because I don't have 18 years of political experience and doing this on a regular basis. I'm not the appropriate person. That's not what they hired me. I'm not hired for that. That's not my job.
Well,
oh my God. There's so many levels of problems with this. Go ahead.
Corinne John Perez will just walk out anyway, right after you ask a question.
Look, just because she's the first black lesbian, whatever, she's got issues. She's a horrible press secretary.
She's a historic figure.
She's historically bad. Yes, she is. But that is not an excuse to say, okay, well, she's so miserable at this job. She is the living embodiment of Velma as a human being. And instead of replacing her which they should absolutely have done years ago. No, instead, we're going to have Mark Hamill show up. I'm sorry.
Well-
You didn't hit the bottom of the barrel. You started digging under it.
Well, this was a twofold swipe at Trump too, because Hamill's going to come out and he's going to badmouth Trump, number one. But this is also the White House saying, not only can we, instead of using the White House daily briefing as a means of conveying to the people what's happening in the country, we're going to use it as a campaign event.
Mhm.
And not only use it as a campaign event, we're going to bring in a celebrity, a B-lister, as he is right now anyway, while Donald Trump is not even allowed to open his mouth because he's got a gag order on him.
Well,
Well,
it's
and Biden makes fun of that fact when he's doing his speeches, campaign speeches. I've heard several times him make the statement, "Well, while my opponent is busy," or it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, he's busy because they're trying to find a way to minimize him. Go ahead.
this is how bad the press briefings are getting to be. Okay. This is a serious question that was asked.
And you can play the audio on this because there's no
Afternoon,
copy.
everybody. I just have a couple things at the top, and then we'll get going. On May 7th, the president will travel to Capitol Hill to deliver the keynote address at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum's annual Days of Remembrance ceremony. During the Days of Remembrance, we remember and mourn the 6 million Jews who were systematically murdered by the Nazis and their collaborators during World War II. The president will also discuss our moral duty to combat the rising scourge of anti-Semitism and the Biden-Harris administration's work to implementing the first ever national strategy to counter anti-Semitism.
I think I got the wrong clip.
Okay, because they are a complete failure.
You're going to show the ones that I'm typically used to watching. Is she has asked a question, and I'm going to be very frank when I answer this question, and I'm going to answer it with the answer.
She didn't even do that.
Talk to
She
the
literally
DOJ or
got
the White
asked the
House.
question. She literally got asked the question just as the reporter stopped talking, or while the reporter was asking the question, she stormed out.
Yeah, that happens all the time. She does that often. She's done that to Achebe, Simon Achebe, who is the African News. She does that to Peter Doocy, who's with Fox News. If she doesn't like the news organization, or more importantly, if they're asking a question that actually requires a significant and serious answer that will make the Biden-Harris administration look bad, she doesn't answer it. And that's kind of like, did you guys see this week? What was it, 2 days ago? Joe Biden came out and he made his first and only statement about the college, the protests at the pro-Hamas protests at colleges across America. We're talking about Columbia. We're talking about Binghamton University, UCLA, and the arrests that are going on, which all of this. So this process started back on December 12th when Harvard and University of Pennsylvania and MIT, their presidents were before Congress. Just to remind people, this is December 12th of 2023. They sat in front of Congress and they were asked, do your colleges support genocide? Not one of them came up with the answer no, which should have been very simple. Not one of them were willing to say that their colleges denounce genocide, which their student bodies were supporting. Several organizations at each of the colleges have been putting out support for genocide as well as for Hamas, a terrorist organization, because of the Hamas-Israel war, which was started by Hamas killing civilians, including 34 Americans, 22 Americans taken as hostages, tortured, sexually abused, still being held to this day. Fast forward, that brings us to April 18th, when we started seeing at Columbia. This is after Students were chased at Cooper Union, where we had Cornell University. Students actually admitted publicly, said they had joined and became members of Hamas, a terrorist organization, so they could intimidate their fellow students. We've had incidents where professors at several universities were admitted publicly on video and in front of large crowds and said, hey, they were excited by Hamas killing civilians on October 7th. So on April 18th, we had Columbia University. The students decided that they were going to create an autonomous zone, which by law at local, state, and federal level is illegal. It is a crime. It is actually an act of insurrection. And it violates, of course, the rules and regulations of the college, the contract they signed when they became students there. And so that was on the 18th. That inspired, theoretically, all of the other colleges that we've seen it now go to. Over 38 different colleges that we know of at this moment that are having encampments, autonomous zones spring up.
Mhm.
And we know that over the last roughly week, we have seen over 2,200. I think the current number is 2,200 arrests. And of those arrests, we are finding roughly about 50% of the people who are being arrested are not students. They are professional political agitators. They are there to instruct, teach, and organize protests, sometimes even violent protests, and to create autonomous zones. Up to 50% that they're finding campus after campus after campus. And Joe Biden came out, and if you saw his comment, he said nothing. He said, First Amendment good, violent protest bad. That is,
Yeah, that's literally all he said.
Literally in 3 minutes. First Amendment good, violent protest bad. Yeah, you're the chief executive of the United States. You're the highest level of law enforcement in this nation. Do you support the police arresting students, individuals who have broken the law? And do you want to see those individuals charged with the crimes and if correct, convicted? Not to wave away, which professors are trying to get amnesty for all these students. Even though they're breaking the law, they want them to have amnesty so this doesn't follow them for the rest of their lives. Even though these kids did this on purpose. They have willfully, University of Chicago, literally the kids are saying to the police officers, no, I'd prefer, rather than leave, I'd prefer to be arrested. By the way, I don't want this on my permanent record, but I want to be arrested. They have literally got that covered. The news media is covering this. And he doesn't have the balls to say, laws matter. You've been arrested. You're going to be convicted if you committed the crime. This is illegal. It amazes me.
I would like one of these chancellors to come out and say, if you are a student and you have blocked entry to the school for any other student, you will be immediately expelled. No hearing, immediate expulsion. We have you on camera, a blockade specifically keeping Jewish students out of the school or preventing Jewish students from leaving the school. You're instantly expelled. If we saw you on video destroying campus property, you're expelled. The mess that they left behind on all of these things whenever they decided to leave, all the tons of garbage. Okay, listen, you know all of the diplomas that you guys are going to get? You're not getting them. We are going to withhold diplomas and any certification of any degree until you come the hell back and clean this goddamn campus up. You're not getting anything. And if you do not clean this up by, 4 hours from now, every one of the people who was at that encampment will be expelled.
Yeah,
you'll lose your tuition, and that's it. Listen, we got to the point in this country where we are actively giving these kids excuses to take on the most ridiculous subject matter on the face of the earth because somebody else is going to foot their tuition bill. Now they think they can do whatever the hell they want. They are the masters of their domain. They're the ones in charge. They don't have to listen to authority. They can get what they want, when they want, from who they want. Listen, it's time that these kids start being taught the lessons that were stopped in the 6th grade. Time for them to all get spanked.
Okay, but Frank, you got to understand. One, it's not, there's the students, which are maybe half of them, who are being organized by another group. We have New York City police officers who are starting the investigation. They have evidence of...
To find out who's doing the funding. Well, find out where all the green and blue tents came from.
Not just the funding. It's not just the funding. Listen, it is organization. They are literally being trained in every aspect of this. And these are some of the people that are, again, 50%, up to 50% are, in some cases, 60% of the people that are being arrested aren't students, which I just had on the screen. Our problem is bigger.
I understand that. But the fact of the matter is, until we hold the students severely accountable for their actions, then the next time these organizers can come in next year, they're going to find another crop of freshmen, fresh morons to pick from that don't know that there's a lesson that had to be learned from this. You have to hold the students accountable harshly. I'm not saying don't hold the organizers accountable. Hold them accountable, expose them, show everybody where the money came from, Soros, and where all the tents came from, Soros, and where all the other amenities that they had all came from. Show everybody where all that funding came from, and all the people that are arrested on campus that were not students. Minimum mandatory sentences. Take them out of the equation completely. Take them out of the equation. Every one of these people that's at these things is just another. What's the term? Useless idiot.
Yeah.
Or useful idiot. They're useful idiots. They're minions. They're pawns. They're being manipulated to do it again. But here's the fact of the matter is, there's a phrase that says, "A drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts." You can't manipulate me into doing something that I already don't want to do. You can't make me or anybody else do something that somewhere inside my anatomy, I'm already, already have a pre-notion that I might want to do it. What do you think? You think you can make me do something I don't want to do?
No, it's not you. We're talking about individuals who have been indoctrinated throughout their lifetimes in the high schools, who don't critically think, who don't understand the consequences, who are used to just obeying what they're told and want to just fit in. But Jen, wait a minute. But we cut off Jen. We got to let Jen. Jen had something to say.
I find it really interesting because you have people who have been interviewed at these things that have come out on these interviews and said, I don't understand what I'm protesting, but I'm protesting. And then, no, I didn't watch his speech, but boss, I did watch your YouTube uncovering it. And I think one of the important things that you brought out was that all these college campus riots are happening in the same places where the 2020 riots happened. That says something big. That tells you right there, it's not just the students who are doing it's Antifa and anybody else who can get their hands involved.
Well, the students who graduated in 2020 joined Antifa. They never left. They're now part of the radicals who were organizing it. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. That's why you need to hold the students accountable. You need to hold them accountable because otherwise they're going to just continue the cycle to take care of the next 4 years. That's why they get expelled. They got to get punished.
No one's saying, or at least I'm not saying, that we don't hold the students accountable. Absolutely. They've been arrested. And I know that as an example already at the University of Arizona. University of Arizona, 57 students were arrested, 57 charges were dropped. I don't understand this. It
And
makes
how
no
is that
sense to me.
accountability?
Uh,
The arrest is not the accountability. The punishment is the
I
accountability.
understand. We need to have them held accountable. And even, I would even say the 100 professors over at Columbia University, specifically, who have put out a petition and have protested, gotten on the protest line to try and protect the students from being held accountable, they should be fired as well. Yes, I agree with the accountability, but I think there's a bigger problem that isn't being addressed, which is why we see that literally, I as Jan mentioned, I did bring out maps and they match up perfectly. The riots, everywhere there was a riot, everywhere there was an autonomous zone in the United States, is exactly where we're seeing college protests and autonomous zones right now. It is a 1-for-1 match across America. And no one is talking about it. No one is saying, look at this. There is a massive problem which involves Antifa. It involves the far left, but there is something else happening. And this is going to affect decades. This is the next couple of generations. They're going to be our politicians. They're going to be corporate leaders. We have a problem here, and it is significant. I mean, does anyone disagree with me about that?
One of the things that gets me too is you've got all this stuff going on campuses and shutting down freeways and all in the name of Palestinians and Hamas and everything. And you have a bunch of guys, I don't agree with them covering their face. If you're a patriot, show your damn face. But we had a march in Charleston this week. And boy, they come out and how they talked about them white nationalists. And how dare they take our streets and how dare they this?
Well, is it me, or whenever there is a protest that isn't progressive, they're always demonic, they're evil, they're horrible.
Well,
But you notice there's no violence, there's no destruction, there's no people being attacked. It's only when the left does it that we see all these things that they're like, oh my God, but the white nationalists might do this. Yes, but the Democratic Socialists are doing it.
what
Mark.
is nationalism?
What's that?
What is nationalism?
Nationalism is a
I
good
don't
thing.
understand the whole problem with nationalism.
No, nationalism's great.
What's wrong with love?
No, actually, it's not.
What?
And I'm going
Nationalism?
to get to this. Okay, nationalism is a form of government taking over the methods of production. It is another form of socialism.
No, that's a nationalistic government. Nationalism is, and let's define that. You're asking a good question. So when I'm speaking about nationalism, I'm talking about it's interchangeable with patriotism in terms
No, it's
of
not. And that's where the problem lies.
well, that's the way I use it. That's the way the common
And
usage
that's the
of
way
that
it
term.
shouldn't be used, because that's not what nationalism is,
Well, no, a nationalist government or a nationalist political movement, no, not at all.
which is nationalism. Nationalist and nationalism are the same thing. That's the problem.
I
Well,
understand you.
I guess my biggest thing on it is if you're white, if you're right leaning, if you're this, we're white nationalists, we're xenophobic, we're homophobic, we're femphobic.
That
we're,
is what they are trying to make that be as the definition today. That is not the definition of nationalism.
On the screen right there is the Oxford Dictionary definition of nationalism: identification with one's own nation and support for its interests, especially to the exclusion or detriment of the interests of other nations. That's
Very good.
that, and they're looking at that as being, that's what, if you consider yourself a nationalist, that is what you aspire. That's the definition. That's not a definition of the nationalist party, nationalist movement, nationalist philosophy. That's their definition of what the individual nationalist means.
Right.
It's identifying with one's own nation above and beyond anybody else. It would almost be the same thing as if you said isolationalist. You know, where you don't care about what the hell happens in Canada or Mexico, as long as it's north or south, keep your shit up there or down there. We'll just keep our stuff inside this border, and that's it. You know, I only care about this one.
But
It's
anyway,
different.
I was getting to a point on this.
Okay.
Okay. Because Democrats keep calling out quote unquote nationalism, right? And white nationalism and so forth. But yet, Democrats are the only ones that are working to enact laws where the laws are based primarily at the national level, which is what nationalism is.
Right. They have a nationalist movement, very much like the nationalist Democrats that we've seen around the world and historically. Yes, the progressive movement is a nationalist governmental movement.
They have no respect or regard for states' rights.
Because basically what nationalism is the promotion where the nation comes first. And it is right on all things. So
that would be fascist.
Under nationalism, states no longer have rights. Under nationalism, individuals no longer have rights.
See, the word I would use in that case, and the way I've always understood it, is what you're speaking about is fascism, which is a form of nationalism. It's a little more extreme, but that's what I would identify as fascist, which is very much along the lines of what the progressives are promoting, a socialist fascist ideology, where the state has all the control. Everything is about the state. The state runs individual lives.
Let's get this right, okay? Because, and this is critical, okay? Because when you say the state has control, okay, some people will misinterpret that as the state of New York.
No. I mean government. I mean over the biggest.
Right.
In our government, it would
that's
be
where we need
the federal
to say
government,
the nation instead of the state.
I understand, but when I say the state, when I'm saying the state, that would be federal government at its top levels. That's
right, and that's why we need to actually, because we have a unique situation here. Okay,
right.
Because we have sovereign states. Okay, each state is its actual own sovereign government.
Right.
Okay.
No, which makes us very unique versus other countries because no individual state doesn't have.
And that's where the push for nationalism, and this started back early in our country, believe it or not. The push for nationalism was a push to increase the national power over the states and take away a lot of the sovereignty that the states held.
Well, my point was just that if you don't agree with anything the left says or does, then you're hateful as a mega.
Well, see, that's the thing. They are trying to twist. They are trying to twist the definition of what nationalism is under guise that.
Well, show a definition. Well, listen. How do you have gender affirming care? And if you break down gender affirming care, that would mean, well, if a little girl walks into the doctor's office and the doctor looks at her and goes, "Yeah, you're a little girl. I just affirmed your gender." A little boy walks into the office. "Yep, you're a little boy. Just affirmed it." The progressives in this country have a completely skewed version of what definitions are. Every definition that they say is the polar opposite of what it is, like progressives. There's nothing progressive about adopting socialism or communism as your national party's mantra. There's nothing progressive about that. You cannot progress anything under those guys, but they call themselves progressives. Listen, I got to bug out of here in a couple of minutes because I got to I had a little incident this week that I got to go take care of health-wise. But I just want to share something with everybody real quick. If I could, now if I find out where the hell I am. Okay. On the screen, you're going to see the floor plan for the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center in Dallas, Texas.
Hmm.
And right there, smack dab in the middle right there is booth 9260, which is
Yep.
occupied by our good friends over at 5150 Rifles. And even though I had no intention at all of taking any road trips this year, I'm going to be at the NRA convention.
Oh,
In 2
cool.
weeks. I'll be at the NRA convention, and when not next week's show, but the week after, I'll be hosting this show with you guys, except I'll be doing it from Dallas, Texas, and I'll be doing it from inside the convention center.
Sweet.
So we're going to be over there. So if by any chance anybody in the audience happens to be over at the convention center for the NRA annual meeting, please stop by the booth. You get a chance to meet me, the guys from 5150. There's going to be a laundry list of who's who of the Second Amendment community stopping in and out of that booth during the duration of the show. You never know who you might get a picture with, a photograph of, or get smacked in the face by. So make sure you stop by and see what you can do, and take it at that. But we'll see you guys. I will see everybody there from the show in 2 Fridays. Until then, I'm going to get out of here now because I'm in a little bit of pain. That's why. No big deal. I'm good. It's just a little bit of an issue I had to deal with. I will catch everybody next week. And listen, if anybody wants to have a nice house guest come over and have a cup of coffee or a meal or something like that, invite Jan Raines over. She's a lovely house guest. Have her swing by. She brings goodies with her too.
Always a bonus.
All right, so I'll catch you guys and gal next week. Okay, everybody in the audience, as always, thanks for being here. Love you guys. Be safe, shoot straight. Catch you next week.
Have a great weekend, Frank.
Well, before you guys get into your things again, I wanted to bring up one other thing. I talked
Sure.
to Frank about it. I don't know if you've heard, but here in West Virginia, there was a high school track meet, and a trans was participating in that track meet. In fact, I believe it was the shot put. And 4 girls from the school, 5 girls, decided they were going to protest.
Okay.
And so they didn't participate. Now, the male ended up beating all the other girls who ended up participating by a lot.
I would imagine.
The school board came down and said that they were going to suspend the girls from the next track meet event.
Why? They didn't break any rule.
Well, exactly. They peacefully protested, didn't they? They did everything the way that they were supposed to do it.
They didn't participate.
It
What's the
came
problem?
out. This was. Let's see. I went to his house on Monday, so I think this was Friday or Saturday. This happened. Well, it came out today that they're suspending them for more than one event. And our AG is fighting it now.
Wait a minute. I don't understand. What's the reasoning? The girls did not participate, which is their right. And that's not a violation of any law. So,
Well, I personally think that it's because Joe Biden changed Title IX.
Joe Biden did what?
Changed Title IX. You didn't hear about that?
No,
Joe
I heard
Biden
about that.
changed
Yeah.
Title IX to include trans.
Mm-hmm.
Trans have the rights now under Title IX. There's like 10, 15 states that are saying they will not abide by it.
I know what Florida and a few others have already said that. By the way, I found the article. This is coming from overseas because I didn't see any other local news other than local news. I didn't see national coverage of this. So they're saying the same thing you did. They're banned from the future shot put. They refused to participate against a girl on the 18th, and there's a lawsuit against the school. So, no, I didn't see this. And again, this was something that was, you would think, was something that should be national. Nope, I did not see national coverage on this.
No, of course you won't.
I stand corrected. Nope, there is an article from Newsweek yesterday.
Well,
And the New York-
yesterday is probably the one that tells you that they've been banned from Future. Not just one, but Future.
Yeah,
But
but the
yeah,
problem is,
And it's ridiculous because there are so many people that who gave Joe Biden the right to just go in and change Title IX? Title IX is about women and women only. It has nothing to do with the trans community.
they should make a new title. If they want to include the trans community, make a new title. It's we see this in so many things. They're repurposing stuff that already exists to include their political ideology
we had
today.
a huge discussion about that last week, about how this administration, various agents, three-letter agencies, are making up definitions as they go, changing definitions as they go, adding definitions as they go, in violation of Article 1, okay, which specifically gives legislative authority to Congress and to Congress only.
Yeah. And so when, as an example, last week we were talking about the FTC, the FCC, there's the ATF and the EPA, each and every one of these groups. And now what we're seeing here with Title IX, Congress didn't pass a new law. They didn't make an amendment to the law. You're just seeing an overreach of government at the federal level, the Biden administration, just saying, hey, we would prefer, and it would be good for our political ideology to just change the law because that's what they feel like it should be. That's not what America wants. It's not the way it's supposed to work. And this is also the reason why we get to see things like out of the arrests, 2,000 arrests, we're seeing hundreds upon hundreds excused. Just, the law doesn't apply to you. Just go back, do it again. It's crazy.
Yeah, we still have J6 prisoners sitting in prison who haven't had any rights whatsoever.
Yes,
And-
that's true.
And Biden even went a step further again this week when he expanded Obamacare coverage to Dreamers.
What?
DACA,
No,
illegal.
I missed that.
Yeah.
I saw that before we came on live.
I did not see that, and I imagine they're trying to keep that really low key in the news because he doesn't have the power to do that.
Or the fact that he's bringing refugees from Gaza over.
No, that he actually can do. That there is an exclusion, and this
That
is
he
something.
can do.
Yeah, he's done it. Presidents have done that in the past.
President's done that all the way along. Okay.
Yeah. Carter is a great example of that with Iran during the crisis.
Well, the Cuba deal
We
too.
can't afford these people with all these illegals here. I'm for bringing refugees over. I remember Vietnam when they brought the Vietnam refugees over. One of my best friends in junior high. We sat there and she had her English Vietnamese dictionary, and that's how we talked to her until she fully learned English.
Right.
But we can't afford these people.
Well, we could afford the ones that we are inviting and who have been vetted. Sure, we can. The 8 million other people who were not invited, who are not vetted, who broke the law. No, not them. They're the ones who are busting New York, Boston, LA, Chicago. They're breaking the infrastructure in the United States. They're the ones they shouldn't be here, and we shouldn't be giving them anything because they broke the law. And any reward for breaking the law only invites more people to do the same. But there is a difference between saying, if the president's saying, okay, using the powers that exist to make an exclusion to help more refugees go through the vetting process. Mind you, when he says, oh, I'm going to have more Palestinians or Haitians come into America under the refugee program, they still have to be vetted. That takes 18 months. That's the way it's supposed to happen. It's the rest of them that they just show up at our door. I'm sorry. Just because you showed up at my door doesn't mean I have a responsibility to take care of you. You're not my problem. And especially since you broke the law to show up at my door. Go back to your country.
Although I agree with you, that's not what happened to the Afghan people. Yes, they put the Afghan people on military bases and stuff, but they didn't vet them for 18 months.
They did, actually. Before they released them into the public, they did. They had them on the military bases. I followed this, and I just want to make sure, because I did follow this quite a bit. They had them, many of the individuals had prior vetting because they've been working with the United States. That was about roughly 40,000 out of the 60,000 that we brought in. But there were another roughly 18,000 that were not. They were restricted onto the military bases. They did get released at about 14 to 18 months. They were in groups, tranches, and that they did release them. The thing that no one noticed is when they released them into various communities, we started seeing assaults on women in those communities, most notably in Wisconsin and Minnesota. That's something that the mainstream news media didn't cover, that as they integrated them into America, women started getting assaults in those same communities. But they did, but I do have to say they did give them the vetting. I think they could have done a better job, obviously, but they did do it. So, I mean, give them the credit for what they did.
We need to get back to the point with any refugee that comes to this country. If you want to come to this country, you learn to live under our laws.
Yes.
Which is what our Constitution states. You become an American. And being an American means you follow our laws. You follow our Constitution. You don't wave your own flag above our flag. You don't take down our flag to put your flag up.
Yeah, due respect for the nation that's taking you in. You had nowhere else to go. Your home's been burned down. You've been threatened with your life. We were kind enough to take you in and say, we will help you rebuild your life, live your life. And they turn around and disrespect us. They insult us, destroying our flag, telling us how we should run our country, that we need to get rid of our laws don't apply to them, that we should change our country to be like their country. Well, if your country was so damn great, why did you have to leave? I'm sorry. You know what? Due respect. You're in my country. These are the rules. You don't like it? There are 190 other countries in the world. Go to one of them. See how they treat you.
Well, I saw somebody say, getting back to the protesters and everything.
Yeah.
That if you're out there protesting and you're doing wrong because it's not a peaceful protest, if you are not a citizen of this country, you should automatically be deported.
Yes. Well, first of all, if they're not authorized to be in the United States, they should be deported, period. Full stop. Doesn't matter where they are. Deport them. If they're at a college, which I don't know how they got into the college because they need documents to get into the college, which means they forged something, which means they've committed yet another crime. Once identified, they've committed even more criminal acts. Deport them. I agree with that. They're committing acts of violence. Deport them. Even more so. I agree with that. They have to really work really hard to try and convince me why they should be staying in America, because there's really no reason for it. And especially if we look at what's going on in our colleges, which is, these organizations that are being identified by police are literally trying to organize insurgencies in our country. They are promoting autonomous zones. They're disrespecting our flag. And they're doing all of that in support of a terrorist organization that promotes genocide. Where have we gone wrong in our country that our kids are standing up? And it's not the problem with the protest, but look what you're protesting for. You're protesting for
here's
genocide.
What really baffles me. Okay. Palestine subjugates women. Palestine will stone people that are of LGBTQIA persuasion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. These are the people that the left is siding with?
Yes. Now, these are the people who poison their own women for learning to read and to write and to go to and to drive and get a job. These are the people who will throw gays off of rooftops and will set them on fire, that will stone women to death because they were sexually assaulted. This is who they are supporting. These are people who literally have written down and have publicly stated for years, for decades now, that they are trying to commit genocide, and this is who they are supporting.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they don't have a right to do it. Sure they do.
Yeah,
But
that's a topic that's really going around on the right of the gay community right now, is how can all these women and these LGBT, I say LGB,
right,
that's all I'll ever say,
right.
how all these LGB are standing up there and trying to, protest America and the Israels and everybody else in favor of them. When if you were in their country, you'd be dead.
Yes, with quickness. With a quickness, they kill every. It's because the left has this incredible ability to compartmentalize and to not consider anything. Here's what I've been saying this on some of my shows, and I believe this. Maybe you guys agree or disagree. I think the reason why we're seeing the progressives stand so strongly behind Hamas is they redefined racism as a matter of power. They have redefined the concept of groups and organizations in terms of power, that if you're small and you don't have as much power as someone else, well, then you're automatically the good guy, and the bigger group is automatically the bad guy, irregardless of anything and everything else. And they believe that because they are infinitesimally small. They are a splinter of the fraction of the population of the United States. And to promote themselves, they have to say, well, we're small, we don't have power, so therefore you have to support us. We are automatically the good guy, and everyone opposing us are the bad guy. And that's why they have to be consistent with that ideology. They have to support Hamas versus any and everyone else. It's not about, they know, genocide, terrorism. Those are all evil, horrible things that should be denounced and obviously should be fought against, but they can't do it, because if we are against Hamas, like 70% of America is, then we would also say the progressives, socialists, have no power beyond the size of their group. They don't get bonuses and benefits because they're small. And that's what they're fighting against. That's what this really is about. It's about their power. At the end of the day, they're trying to boost their own political power for the same argument. If Hamas is good, well, we have to be good too. we're small too. And I think that's particularly wicked and evil because it's not what's being promoted, but it is the core of their ideology. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. But what doesn't make sense is the smallest group is the individual. You would actually think that they would be protecting individual rights.
No.
Instead, they are trouncing on them.
Yeah, because, well, they want groupthink. Individuals disperse the power. They want the power centralized on them, on a group of elites that you've never elected. You don't know their names. You don't know who they are, but they're the ones who put the mandates out that everyone else is supposed to follow. Where did this message of Hamas is the good guy and we have to protest in favor of Hamas? Who came up with that idea? Don't know, but it's at every college, and every college is promoting this idea. Why? Where did it come from? Same place that the tents came from. Same place that the flyers are coming from. Same place where the professional agitators are coming from. We don't know. Someone is funding that. And now we have multiple law enforcement agencies are all finding the evidence of a large organization funding and coordinating all of this, which is why we see all the same tents, why we see the same printed documents, why we see the same types of people making the same speeches flying around this nation. It should be very terrifying to people to see what is happening here at these autonomous zones. And by the way, Erica Freedom, hello, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. So,
yeah,
I mean,
I saw an interview earlier today. I was going through a news feed that I follow, and there was a young reporter, a lady, interviewing a Palestine, and she asked her about why the hostility against Jews, and she said it was because that they don't know their place. The Holocaust never happened. It's been debunked. No. I turned it off right there. I couldn't watch no more.
Yeah, but this is the kind of mentality that we see throughout the Middle East amongst those who are being radicalized. But that same radicalization is happening here, just in a slightly different way. It's like they keep saying, I saw something really interesting, a TikTok, really short. This kid's like, oh, Republicans are losing their minds. MAGA is losing their minds because they're going to lose. And here's the thing, but Trump is winning. Yeah, he has 94 charges. He's in court right now. He's been in court consistently. And he's winning in 90% of the polls that have been taken in the last 2 years. And he's winning by larger and larger margins as we get closer and closer. Now we've got Trump, and he's doing things that Biden just can't do. The most recent thing being the news that came out earlier this week, Trump's going to the Libertarian Party. He's going to the Libertarians and making his speech there, which is insane. Never happened before.
No.
Brand new. Now, good for the Libertarians because they get more attention. Bad for the Libertarians because he's going right up against, he's literally trying to steal votes from their candidate at their own national convention. But it also says that Trump has enough cross appeal that people are paying attention. That people, regardless of party, are saying, there is something fundamentally wrong with Biden. Something is fundamentally wrong with the Biden administration. And
something's fundamentally wrong with our country at this point in time.
Yeah, there is a
and we need to head in a different direction. And honestly, if it wouldn't have been for COVID at the end of Trump's term, I fully believe that he could have been reelected.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure he would have been. I mean, we saw, and it has been proven, so the censors who are watching this, it is well documented in Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania, that it's been in the courts that their last minute changes to laws were unconstitutional. That changes the numbers. Now, I'm not saying who won or who didn't win. I'm just saying it changes the numbers if you didn't have those now considered
But also, a
unconstitutional
lot of
changes.
things that they are trying to bash Trump over were due to COVID. Okay, like the 6.8% unemployment. Okay, the reason why it's 6.8 is because nature was shut down.
Yeah.
Okay, stuff like that they are trying to hang on Trump. Okay, our economy during the last year of Trump's presidency, our economy was in the toilet because our country was shut down.
As was every country in the world.
Okay,
Yeah.
so trying to use the last year of Trump's presidency as an indictment against his presidency is not accurate.
Well,
And that's literally all they can do. All they can do is charge Trump with these politically biased and bogus charges and look at his last year as president. That's all they've been able to do. Because if they go to the years prior to COVID, our economy was extremely strong. We're leading the world in economic growth. Unemployment, record lows in every segment on unemployment. So this is why, like I said, if COVID wouldn't have happened when it did, I have no doubts, not just the law changes, okay? Even with those law changes, I think Trump would have had enough momentum that he could have kept going, that he could have won it.
Well, I think he absolutely would have. And well, look at what we're seeing right now, especially now. I don't think there's literally, I can't think of the charge or the situation that would prevent Trump from winning no matter what. And the reality is Democrats don't want Biden or Kamala Harris. They have seen their policies. They have seen the progressive socialist policies. Every one of them has failed. Can we point to any policy of the Biden-Harris administration that has been successful? We've seen them overreach. We're seeing now in the final months before the election, we're seeing all the three-letter agencies
they've
get
been
more power.
successful in increasing our debt. They've been successful in forgiving the most student loans of any administration.
Yes, but Mike, those aren't successes. I'm talking about successes.
Well,
Yes, they have been very
They
good.
say they are.
Those are buying votes.
They say those are successes.
Those aren't successes, Mike. You're talking about, and I understand. I understand you're highlighting the fact that the failures are being told to us as success. God help us. It's so much like 1984. Yeah, the government said it was good, so it must be good. Doesn't matter how bad it is. It's good because the government said so. Because news agencies that are left-leaning are saying that, well, that's good. It makes no sense. Just
Well,
because
I've been laughing lately because about every third or fourth article I see, it talks about how bad the economy is, how inflation is bad, how unemployment is bad. And then you see an article come out that Yellen says that our economy is doing great. Or this person says we aren't in an inflation.
Okay.
unemployment just went up to 3.9. This is from the government itself. This is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So people who don't know how to read this, let me show you. This is our unemployment rate, 3.9%. You can see here the number of people not counted as being who are unemployed but not counted. That number increased. We see that the number of unemployed increased. There's one other number here that's kind of interesting. And this is probably the most important number you'll ever see. This is the number of small businesses in America. That number decreased. That's 70% of all the jobs. That number is down, and it's been trending lower throughout the presidency. And the number of people who are not working because of Biden's policies, every single category that went up. They're lying, but yet they're going to come out with the news, I guarantee you, by Monday, and they'll say, the economy is doing fantastic. You just don't understand.
Well, here's something else that I find extremely funny. Okay. Democrats are huge union supporters, right?
Say again?
Democrats are huge supporters of unions.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and they've been pushing really, really hard to get unions going. What's really funny is they are managing in some areas to get some unions going. In fact, today I saw that an auto plant down, Volkswagen, down in Tennessee, has decided to go union.
Mm-hmm.
But here's
Isn't
the
that
funny thing.
Aren't
New Jersey,
Yeah.
an auto plant in New Jersey decided to decertify its union.
Yeah, but aren't the
In other
new
words, they got
unions?
rid of it.
But aren't the new unions, like in North Carolina? I know they were actually hiring illegal aliens from New York City to
That
join the
is
union.
a big part of it. Another thing on these unions is no matter how you look at the numbers, okay, even this year, union numbers continue to decline, even though they have all these big so-called unions starting up, Starbucks starting up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
But union numbers continue to plummet. They've been going down since the early 60s, pretty steadily.
Well, because unions actually achieved the goal that they were created for in the 1930s, which was to improve the workplace and to benefit the workers. They did it. They won. It's kind of like in the 1980s with race relations. America won. We the entire civil rights movement, it worked. They won. And now Democrats have to go back and create more conflict so that they can justify the best way to get reelected, which is because of all this. It's inequality.
The only one that is even close, the only segment of unions that's even close to actually having any gains is the public sector unions, i.e., police unions, fire unions, government job unions, teachers unions. Those are the only ones that are even coming close to having any positive gain in numbers. Every other type of union's been dropping numbers left.
Well, my question to that,
at an
though,
exponential rate.
my question to that, though, Mike, is understanding, what you're saying and how you're saying it, but how many of those jobs were lost also when everything was sent overseas?
Well, there's a huge part of jobs sent overseas. And yeah, that was a big part of it. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize and don't understand is every time a union does manage to get its feet in the door at places, those places lose jobs. And not an insignificant amount of jobs. Generally, their workforce is generally cut by half.
Well, yeah, I get that. My roommate, the subject of unions came up the other day, and my roommate told me that she had a job one time, and they were talking about unionizing, and the owners of the company came in and said, if you tried to unionize, we're packing up and moving out of state. And of course, people didn't listen. And she ended up going to some meetings because, she was telling them, look, they said, if you guys try to do this, we're going to be out of jobs. And they tried to convince her to join the union. And she kept saying, no, I don't want to.
Pretty much every time a union is successful, jobs are lost. And typically it's right around about 50%.
Yeah, well,
Well,
that's
it's
what happened. They heard that they were talking union, and the job said, "Up, see ya."
Well, it's kind of like what we see, and this is true every single time. CBO has studied this 4 times now. We've talked about it before. The Congressional Budget Office confirmed that the $15 minimum wage, the $20 to $25 living wage that we hear progressives promise eternally, every time it has been implemented, everywhere it has been implemented in the United States, it is always followed by an increase in unemployment and a decrease in the number of worker hours as well as the number of workers, and more people
Increase in prices.
increase in the prices, more people become poor, and less people are benefiting. It doesn't work, but that's
And
unpopular.
California is proving it.
Yeah,
Today, they are
Well,
proving it.
And what I've always tried to say when we've always brought this living wage up is I've had friends that were like, oh yeah, this is going to be great for me, and it's like, wait a minute, you're going to be in another tax bracket now. You realize what that means? More taxes are going to come out of your paycheck.
well,
You're going to go to the grocery store, and that milk's going to be $5 a gallon instead of $2.
Well, again, that's assuming they get hired as a minimum wage worker, the lowest level of worker at any company, not someone who already, and a lot of people forget that. Oh, well, if you're making above minimum wage, if you're, say, you're making $15 an hour now, you're middle manager, assistant manager, something like that, and you're making 15, you don't get a pay raise.
No, you don't.
You stay at $15. You have more responsibility, and now your pay is the same as the guy who's the fry guy. You're not getting any extra money. There is no obligation to increase your pay. You're not.
All increasing minimum wage does is create more people making minimum wage.
Yes. Which, and again, for people who don't know this in the audience, you may not know this. The big secret that all the media and all the people calling for minimum wage increases, only 3% of the nation at the maximum in the highest years, 3% of the nation make minimum wage. Half of those
And of
numbers,
that,
well, I was going to say,
over half of them are under the age, are still in school.
yeah, they're under 18. They tend to be about 16 to 18, about 60%. So you're talking about kids who have no experience, never been out in the world. They get minimum wage. That is the overwhelming majority. And there's less than 3% of the nation's workforce.
And of the remainder of this 40% that remains, I think over half of that is still under the age of 26.
Not sure about that number. I know the first one. I know those who are 18 to 16 to 18. I know that one. It's incredible to me. But again, it's not, I know people are going, numbers. It's real simple, folks. You're not going to be helped because you're not in the group to get helped. It's not going to, people haven't thought about it, but everyone who's done every single study, every single data point on this, every time always says the same thing: higher prices, more poor people, more unemployment.
Wages that are over the target minimum wage do not increase. Period.
No, never do.
But you guys got it all wrong. You're supposed to believe in their reports, their science,
They don't have any reports. That's the thing. I'm talking about the Congressional Budget Office. It's neutral. They've done this 4 different times. It's not like, one administration or just one group of people. They've done this in study 4 separate times since 2018, and it's a neutral government organization. They have no study. They have theories. And whenever you hear the Democrats, the socialists say, oh, this is going to be great, they point to a theory from a college. They never go to any of the data points of where someone has tried their ideology because it always fails. And everyone who has done the studies, it always fails, which is why they only go to, here's the theory, here's what we hope will happen, not what we have seen happen every time we try.
And the same happens with universal basic income. Any place that it's been tried on a larger scale, it has failed.
Including the
way it has
largest.
ever worked, and the only studies that they've ever used to try to prove that it works has been minimally done. Okay, i.e., a very select group of people have been given it.
No, the largest UBI in the world, which is 10 years long, is in Kenya. They just finished their 10-year run. They've put out their preliminary numbers. The official numbers aren't out yet. The final numbers, I should say, aren't out yet. But they did the UBI, which was funded by the World Economic Council and MIT. The answer is, if Kenya had to do it for themselves, if Kenya had to pay their own people $200, that's it, Kenyan dollars, by the way, $200 Kenyan extra per month. If they did that, it would have bankrupted Kenya. Because the money was coming from outside of Kenya, the Kenyan national economy increased because the money was coming from out their country going into their country. So their economy increased. If you put the burden on Kenya to do it themselves, doesn't work. So other people's money improves the economy. What a shock. This is socialism. They also found out that by doing the universal basic income, lump sum, weekly or monthly, it does not, in any case, in any opportunity, does not create new businesses, does not improve people's quality of life. It does not change. People who are poor stay poor. It does not. This is the largest study that has ever been done in the world, in the country of Kenya, which was done by the World Economic Forum and by MIT. The reason why you don't see that quoted on a regular basis, because it's not good news. They don't want to talk about it.
No, they don't. And
Some of us do the research, though.
The other thing, okay, everybody rails on capitalism about how unfair it is, about the wealth gap and all this stuff. But here's the real truth of it. Capitalism is the only economic system that has raised more people out of poverty, created a higher standard of living for everybody involved. It is literally the only system that actually does improve people's lifestyles.
Well, no, I know you're talking to the audience because we already know that, but it's amazing to me. It is amazing. But I wanted to change the subject a little bit because we're a little bit away from what I was hoping, or where we started talking about today. It is important stuff, but we've covered this before. By the way, folks, you can go back to some of our previous weeks. We've talked about this subject in depth with links and such. So I do invite you to check that out. But I wanted to bring up one other thing that I don't know if you guys have heard about this. But tell me if you have.
Oh, Pelosi getting the Presidential Freedom Medal?
No, that's just, Democrats blowing each other. I don't care about that. No, about the Columbia Act.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that. I didn't get a chance to really look into it much.
Okay. This is a bill that's been created by Congressman Richie Torres, who's a Democrat, New York 15th District. He's actually my congressman. And also Congressman Mike Lawler, also New York. He's in the New York 17th District. He's a Republican. So they came together looking at what's been going on in the colleges, everything we've been talking about the colleges so far. The fact that there are autonomous zones that are absolutely illegal, the destruction, the violence, the support of terrorism around the world, the support of genocide. They decided we've got to do something about that. Now, The answer could have been what could have been for Biden to come out, say, I support law enforcement and hold these kids accountable, arrest them, hold them accountable. If they're guilty, charge them. That's what he could have done. He didn't do that. They went in a different direction. They created the Columbia Act. Now, this has been somewhat hidden, and I need to show you. Bear with me.
Well, I read an article on it only because of course, I'm not one to go by headlines, but this headline got me.
Yeah.
Who voted, the Republicans and Democrats who voted against this act. So I had to go in and read it. And, when you have people like Matt Gaetz, MTG, some of the other big name Republicans who actually fight for the country, their basic reasoning that they voted against it was because it would limit the First Amendment.
No, it destroys the First Amendment. This bill, the Columbia Act, now Representative Richie Torres has hidden this from his constituents. It's not on his website. It's not on his Twitter account. He did do an interview with the Columbia Spectator, a college newspaper, only 8,000 subscribers. Most of them are Columbia alumni who make donations to Columbia. So he's targeting the people who can give him more money, saying that he supports this as a solution to these autonomous zones at the college. But publicly, Mike Lawler is the one who's getting all the attention about this. No, it's both of them. What this bill does is it puts in a spy. These are my words. You can see it on the screen, so you can see it for yourself. But it essentially says that the government will pick a spy, an individual whose only purpose is to go into the college to monitor the college. That's the college and the students in terms of what they're saying and talking about and the materials they have, to every 3 months to write a report about whether or not the college is promoting anti-Semitism and or are they maintaining proper DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. The college has to pay for this government official to be on the campus and involved with everything happening on the campus, having access to everything on the campus. This is government thought police.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really, it's worded differently, and they're trying to take advantage of the fact that everyone's looking at what's happening at our colleges right now, and they're saying they don't support Hamas, they don't support terrorism, they don't support these autonomous zones or the violence of these college students, and they're against it. So they're using this emotion with a differently worded thought police, and they're trying to slip that in. This is what establishment Republicans and Democrats are trying to do. This is evil. It destroys the First Amendment. And that is dangerous.
And here's one big issue. Okay, besides the fact that it does destroy the First Amendment. Constitutionally, the federal government should not be giving universities or colleges any federal funding.
That's true too. Yeah. First problem, we're giving them money. Well, Department of Education shouldn't be involved. These are private. They have endowments. They have donors. Why are we giving them?
They charge
money?
tuition.
That too. Yes. They're all for profit. Why are we giving the money? Why is the federal government, why are our taxes going to these colleges in the first place? That's your first problem. Second problem, we're giving them money and yet we have no input. If my money's going there, I do not want it to support Hamas. Why are we doing this? Oh, but we don't have a choice. But it's my tax money, your tax money, that's helping to support this movement. I don't understand. No, every single one of those kids who are in those autonomous zones, they still do get, by the way, they still have, they're saying, oh, we are starving, we're hungry, you should send us hot food. No, not my responsibility to feed you. If you have the balls to go out and break the law, go and feed yourself. But by the way, they still are on the college food plans. They can still go to the dining hall and get food anytime they want.
No,
Not one of them have been
No.
stopped from eating.
Here's what it's got to be. It's got to be a gluten-free pizza without cheese, without tomato sauce, with vegan pepperoni, brought in a recycled cardboard box. If you can't provide that, then don't bring us anything. We'll just go back home.
That's okay. Let them starve then. If you can't eat a Big Mac, if you can't eat chicken nuggets, I know that's all mystery meat. I don't care. If you can't eat it, then starve. I don't care. Pull up some grass, chew on that. I could care less. Not my responsibility.
That's just it. It's not our responsibility.
Exactly.
Okay. And if they are protesting, well, actually, they need to do like this group is doing. Let me get this up here real quick.
Yeah, but while you're bringing that up, my problem is the answer isn't the Columbia Act, though. But go ahead, go with your thing first.
Yeah. Do like these guys do. Okay, you're hungry, go on hunger strike. See how long that lasts.
Yeah, knock themselves out. Let them go on a hunger strike for terrorists. I can care less. But here's my thing. But the answer to these problems, and they're as numerous as they are ludicrous, as they are vile, when you really think about it, when you understand what they are in support of, they are vile. This isn't like supporting, this isn't like the fight against apartheid, has nothing to do with it. They compare it to everything else. Well, we're fighting against, it's like the fight against slavery and civil rights and apartheid. No, it's not, because you didn't have a group saying we're going to genocide another group, which is Hamas. Hamas has said they'll genocide Israel and anyone else in the world if they don't believe what they want to believe. So it's not the same. But going beyond that. But the answer isn't the Columbia Act. That's a knee-jerk reaction. It's like the Patriot Act, which was passed because of the knee-jerk reaction of Americans.
Because they put in anti-Semitism, it's supposedly a good thing.
Yeah, but that is just the medicine. That's the sugar around the medicine. So it goes down nice and easy. It's the same thing about the Patriot Act. Oh, don't worry. The Patriot, it's only temporary. And don't worry, it's not going to affect you. It's only to go after the bad guys. And now we know that they have a record of every single conversation on the internet. They've got a copy of every email that's been sent over the internet. They have a copy of phone calls that everyone has made in the United States. We know this. We have seen this. There are secret courts. They could pick up anyone in America right this second, and they do, and throw you into a secret prison with a secret warrant and have a secret trial. This is a problem. It's absolutely abusive. And these guys now want to put thought police. And if they're willing to put thought police in a college, what about the high schools? They will be next. I guarantee you, if they're able to put thought police into the colleges, then they're going to say, oh, but the anti-Semitism is starting earlier. We have to go and combat that earlier in life. So we need those same thought police in high schools.
We stopped at anti-Semitism. It will be anything the government doesn't think is appropriate.
Well, it always expands because it is abusive. It is a problem. And not enough people know about this. They just aren't talking about this.
Okay, because once that gets put into effect, it will be an executive agency that does it, and then they will continuously change the rules, as every executive agency has done and is doing.
Yeah. And they will get to the high schools and they will get to the elementary schools, and All of a
And the
sudden,
preschools.
yeah, and all of a sudden you're in an autonomous country, authoritarian, country. It's no longer about freedom. It kills freedom.
It doesn't surprise me that they've done it this way, because they've been trying to destroy the First Amendment for as long as I can remember.
Well, this is one of the biggest threats to it, and they're doing it with a smile on their face, saying, "We're going to help. We're going to protect you." No,
Yeah, and how dare you vote against us? But in that article I saw, and I wasn't surprised. I mean, the squad all voted against it, and
I would expect the squad to vote for it.
no, the squad voted against it.
That's a surprise.
Yeah, I was quite surprised too. I just, what the hell is our representatives doing?
Not representing the United States.
They're not representing us for sure in anything.
The only things that, again, Representative Richie Torres of the New York 15th District has avoided talking to constituents about this. He's been ducking from them. And again, he will not let them know on his social media and his access, even his congressional page, which has news about all the bills that he's been putting out and he's supporting. He has nothing on this. You can search it. You will find zero information. He has dodged accountability for this. But it's his bill. His name's on it. He's the one who helped create it. But he's dodging and hiding from constituents, which is perhaps the biggest thing that pisses me off. I mean, as much as Lawler is just as complicit in this, he at least has it on his congressional page. He admits that this is something he is doing. Constituents can hold him accountable. Richie Torres is hiding from the public. He's doing it. He wants this authoritarian control over colleges, over education, over the way people speak. He wants to put himself above the public and to silence people in opposition, but he doesn't want you to know he's doing that. He wants to get reelected as if he's some kind of good guy doing only good things. The moment that this got negative press, he stopped talking about it. And that's even worse. It's not just that he's doing this and knows that it's opposed and knows that it's evil, anti-First Amendment. It's that he's hiding it. That's even worse, which is why I mentioned his name so much, because people should be able to be aware of that.
Well, yeah. And as a constituent, they should be informed about everything their representative is doing. And on top of it, if their representative is avoiding their questions and their comments and so forth, then you really, as a constituent, okay, regardless of your political preference, as a constituent, you should be looking to replace that person, whether it is with another Democrat or if it's with somebody from a different party. And that's where we need to start holding our people accountable that are, quote unquote, representing us. Okay. Instead of allowing them to serve the special interests, they need to start serving the constituents. And we are failing on so many levels at doing that.
Let me give you another example of that. Did you guys hear about this? Just got released. It's being bigger coverage is international. A lot of people may not have heard about Joe Biden just insulted our allies.
The Japanese president wasn't too happy.
No. What happened is,
ever since Biden came to power, Japan's building up its military because they knew that they're going to get thrown under the bus.
Yeah, Japan is now building the first army they've ever had since 1945 because they don't trust Joe Biden or the United States as an extension of that. But he literally Joe Biden went out and decided to say, to throw all of our allies under a bus and say that India, Japan are just like China and Russia, that they're xenophobic, that they hate other people, that they're bad for business, that they have bad economies. By the way, the Indian economy is doing better than the United States economy. Japanese economy is doing better.
Economy is said to be third in the world.
I know, but this is what Joe Biden making up his own numbers as he insults. These are our allies, people that we need to have our support, our back. I mean, not just because of the economy, but just because of geopolitics. And Joe Biden is in the middle of pissing them off. And this is really a bad idea. And this is all happening at the same time that the Biden administration just got kicked out of the country of Chad, the country of Niger, and Russians are now going into the former U.S. base in Niger and taking that over. He lost somehow. I don't know how the Biden administration did it, but they pissed off the countries that were there to help fight against ISIS, which is invading all of Africa. And the Russians are winning the deal. They're taking over for us. There's so many problems right now.
What about all the Russian airplanes we just bought?
What's that?
What about all the Russian airplanes we just bought?
What Russian airplanes?
Hoo-ha that Russia's bad, and we just bought a bunch of helicopters from them.
Yeah, because Biden is stupid. You know, you're talking about the same people, Biden administration, the same people who decided to build a COVID testing factory in Germany. $100 million. Built it in Germany to improve the German unemployment rate. That's a fact. Don't have to believe me. Check April of 2021. He signed the contract.
Yeah. And we talked about Biden's economy numbers and so forth. And last few weeks, we've also discussed how Biden's job numbers, speaking of improving unemployment in Germany, how Biden's job numbers and unemployment numbers are artificial. They've came from stuff like the infrastructure bill and a bunch of other things where they've created these temporary government jobs, okay, to build bridges, to build roads, and so forth, that are not going to last. They're not long-term jobs. Okay, but they look good on paper. It also looks good on paper when a majority of the jobs that are driving down the unemployment numbers are actually part-time jobs. They're not full-time jobs. And if we look at the comparison, we are losing more full-time jobs, and they are being replaced by part-time jobs. That's really the backstory of Biden's unemployment.
Yeah. But it's about the sad thing is, how do we hold people? Aren't holding them accountable. The news media is so diminished. They have diminished these stories. I have to go overseas to get the context and the content here. It's like when going back to Joe Biden's literally 3-minute statement about the college campuses exploding with anti-Semitism and support of terrorism. And he makes the most he could do is, I got to get to North Carolina, but before I go to get on the campaign trail, let me take 3 minutes to tell you that, First Amendment good, violent protest bad. It's like how, and the news media you saw all the major news media didn't hold him accountable. They even chopped down that short statement to try and make it sound like they took 3 words out of his statement. They started pushing that around as the quote, 3 words out of the entire 3-minute thing to try and make it sound like, oh, he's taking such a strong. No, he said nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything.
Did you guys hear the latest?
What's that?
Rhodes are racist.
What? What?
AOC said Rhodes in an interview. Rhodes are racist.
That's not the first time that's actually came up. Buttigieg
I'm
has claimed that before too.
I'm confused. I know that they've said that math is racist and the weather is racist. I've heard both of those things before. Roads, ROADS, roads.
Yep, roads are
Streets.
racist.
Cars driving down.
AOC did an interview in the last couple of days. I forgot where I saw it. Yeah, roads are racist.
It's just like we discussed last week. Plants are sexist.
What?
Yep, because
Plants are sexist.
they cause the allergies. Those damn male plants.
Plants are male and female.
Yeah, you guys discussed
This
this
is basic
last
biology.
week.
I remember, literally, I'm just thinking now, and I'm flashing backwards in time to the early 1980s when I was in junior high school. And my junior high school earth sciences teacher, who was actually very good, by the way, good teacher, taught us about plants, and plants have male and female parts. They're plants. They don't have a sex because they're a plant. They're not an animal.
But they're sexist.
How?
You don't remember your big conversation last week, boss? How they were misogynistic?
There's something.
If I remember right, you said the original report came out of the UK on this in 2000. You brought that up.
Probably. I'm just now remembering because the idiocy sometimes it just overwhelms me.
And that's actually why I'm bringing this stuff up. Idiocracy is on the rise.
Yes, and I have a great
people
memory.
are using the movie Idiocracy as a training guide.
It appears so because trust me, sometimes I just delete this stuff. It's like in my memory. You guys have seen me. I remember lots of data, but some of it is just like why do I still remember this? I don't even want to remember.
I remember it because after the show, the next couple of days, I was talking to my sister about it, and I was laughing because the bee thing. Well, if a bee's a female, and how do you know she's not identifying as a male? And the drone, he might be thinking he's the queen.
Oh God, now I remember it. Okay. Now I remember it all. Yeah. Oh God, such stupid stuff. And wait a minute, how are roads sexist?
No, they're racist.
How are they racist?
No, they're racist.
Okay, how are they racist? Because what? Because tar is black? What? The dividing line is white? I don't understand. What is?
It's getting to the point where if you don't agree with anything somebody on the left says, I've said this for about 15 years. I am so sick of the word racist because it has been taken so out of context and used in the manner for which the word was originally created for. You're going to have to pull it up and watch it, boss.
Yeah, and I have sometimes I forget these things because it's so ridiculous. But I cannot comprehend how it's like math. I can't comprehend how math is racist. It doesn't make any sense to normal human beings. It's an illogical, stupid thing to say. And I cannot understand how you would tell me that a road is racist. Starting with the first thing, it's an inanimate object. It's a man-made inanimate object. How can something inanimate be? I mean, a plant at least is alive. I mean, I'm not shocked. It's
AOC is right about racism. Her
Okay,
proposed
so
solution
first
is
of
both
all,
impossible to fund and practical to implement. But her
wait
push to propose mass
a minute.
high-speed rail-
First thing. AOC, we know, is an idiot. She thinks you can take a train across the Pacific Ocean. The author who wrote this, who says that she is right about highways and racism, is also an idiot. And I bet you they went to Dartmouth or Columbia or one of the other colleges. I guarantee you they did.
Here's how highways are racist. Okay, and Buttigieg also.
Buttigieg, all right, he's another idiot.
Parroted this as well earlier. So actually, AOC is parroting him.
Oh,
Construction of highways can have a disproportionate impact on communities of color from displacement and pollution, and high-speed rail actually connects these communities to greater economic and housing opportunities.
okay, that has nothing to do with racism. that is stupid. Okay,
Yeah, it does.
On its face. No,
Of course it does.
No, that is, oh God, it's not even correlation and not causation. Again, inanimate object cannot and does not have motivation, nor does it have it can't have racism. It's inanimate. It has no will. It has no anima. It has no thought. It is inanimate. So on its face, this is obviously propaganda. It can't be anything else. Okay, look, what do I got here? My shot glass has about as much intelligence as the road. Okay, it is inanimate. It cannot think. It doesn't care if I could drink coffee or tea or sake or scotch. It doesn't care because it's inanimate. It doesn't think about it. It doesn't care that, Mike, you should have malt 45, Colt 45. No, it doesn't care. It is inanimate. Does that not resonate with people? If anyone is saying that an inanimate, forget math is immaterial, but roads are inanimate. And if you are telling me that a road has an emotion, it has a motivation, it has a preference of the people who ride across it, you are mentally damaged.
Well, wait till AOC figures this one out. If roads are racist, what does this say about railroads? Considering that the majority of railroads in the South were built by slaves.
Well, I'm sure they have to be racist too.
But that's what she's saying that they need to build in order to get rid of the racist roads.
Wait a minute. I got a question.
Oh, please do.
If our country was built on the back of the black person, how is everything racist?
Because it was built by black people. I understand that's the logic. Because it was built by black people, which isn't really correct because it was built by blacks and Chinese and Asians and American
Irish,
Indians,
Italian.
yeah, lots of people. But I get but I understand. Yes, slavery had its portion in there too.
Well, the reason I asked it that way is because you talk to most of these leftists, and they'll tell you that America was built on the black people's backs. Nobody else had anything to do with all the building that went on in this country.
The thing that's really crucial on this is a lot of people exclude anybody other than blacks as being slaves.
Yeah, it's part of the lie that we have a huge romanticized lie about slavery. And people may go, Mike, romanticized? Yes, romanticized as in we have a artificial way of remembering the past that is favored by a group of people. That's the romanticization. They have this fetish about the 1860s, and the word slavery only can apply to 1860s America. Mind you, there are more slaves in the world today than at any time in the history of mankind. That is a fact. There is more slavery in Africa today than in any other place on the face of the globe. That is also a fact. Slavery in America, because it does still exist, is called human trafficking. It still exists. We haven't resolved it. No nation has ever resolved it, and you never will, because human beings have problems. But the romanticization of slavery says it only happened in America. It was only in the 1860s, and it was only about black people. So false on so many levels, which is why they are so fundamentally wrong and come up with stupid statements like the road is racist, math is racist. If you are saying that, you have been fundamentally brainwashed. You have a problem with your mind. You seriously, you're deficient. You're a deficient human being if you believe that.
Well, so does everybody know who Angela Davis is?
Yeah, we used to talk about her back in the late 70s, 80s. Kids wanted to have their afros like her. That's all we knew back then. Back then,
Angela Davis,
yeah,
is one of the foremost leading people advocating for reparations. Member, are huge supporter of Black Panthers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and she had a really big afro. It was like 16 inches.
Okay. So PBS did a story on her on their Finding Your Roots program. Okay. Through her activism and scholarship over many decades, Angela Davis has been deeply involved in movements for social justice around the world. Her work as an educator, both at the university level and larger public spheres, always emphasized the importance of building communities of struggle for economic, racial, and gender justice. Okay. Angela Davis found out on this episode that her ancestors were part of the 101 people that came over on the Mayflower.
Okay.
And that her family,
is white.
Her ancestors, actually owned slaves.
Okay. Yeah. See, here's the thing. I don't find that it's like that's neither surprising to me nor important. I mean, it's devastating for Angela, I'm sure. I'm sure she wants to self-harm herself because she's like, oh my God, I'm descended from a slave owner. And yeah, go on. What else?
Here's the thing, and that's the key point on reparations. Okay. Everybody's pushing for this reparations, but there is no way to tell who is actually descended from slavery and who were people that actually owned slaves.
No.
This is the key thing.
My family goes back to the 1866. We know that there was slavery. You can track that, but it's ridiculous. Because my problem isn't were you descended from slaves? That's not the problem. It doesn't resolve anything. See,
no, it doesn't. Okay. And we've had that discussion on here many times as well. the reparations doesn't do anything. That's people that are alive today had nothing to do with slavery on either side. Okay. And actually, a lot of the people that are here now that are pushing for reparations come from places that weren't even a part of the slave trade network.
Well, first of all, if you're
And
from
they came
another
here,
country,
well, their families and ancestors came here even after slavery.
well, exactly, if you're from another country, screw you. You're not even in the conversation. Why are you in the conversation? But we know this.
California is a perfect example. California wasn't a slave state, but yet they want to give out all the reparations.
They wanted to until they found out what the price tag was. Then they said, "Oh, hell no."
Yeah.
But yeah, why is California doing it? Because it's a gimmick.
It is. It's a ploy to bribe for votes.
Yes, that is.
Well,
Okay.
everything
And it's
that
not-
they do.
And let's get this right, folks. They aren't buying votes. They are bribing you for your vote.
Yeah, well, go ahead,
I
Jen.
look at it this way: everything that they are doing, racism, this, that, they realized. Well, Obama started all the downfall. But
No,
when
it started
Trump
before
got
him.
elected and they saw how many Black people voted for him, they realized they had to change the narrative because their 100 years had expired. What was the politician, the president's name, who said, do this and we got it for the next 100 years?
And as Johnson, and 100 years isn't up. Johnson was in the 60s.
Okay. Well, still, they're losing the Black vote. They saw they're losing the Black vote. What better way to do it? Let's bring racism back, white against Black.
Well, the problem is the resurgence of racism in American politics actually started in the 90s, about 95, thereabouts, because we went through a period after the 70s, we had the transition. So you had the civil rights movement, late 60s, 70s, we started transitioning. People's trying to deal with that transition. So you had the 80s and pretty much the 80s and early 90s. You had generations of kids who had grown up and just said, okay, fine.
We don't care.
We're good. It's all good. And you saw it on TV. That's the time. That's the era of Bill Cosby, Different World, The Cosby Show. There were a bunch of TV shows and programs headlining all Black casts and Family Matters.
And they poked fun at people that were racist. Sanford and Son, Archie Bunker.
Well, that's the 70s. The 70s were Archie Bunker and Sanford and Son, the Jeffersons.
Okay. Made them look like total idiots.
Well, to prove their point. And
Right.
they did so in a smart way. It wasn't just they're dumb. Here's why. Here's the better way. Here's a better understanding, which is great. And that led to the 80s where no one cared.
Mm-hmm.
But then
we didn't.
But that changed the pattern of voting, which again was reversing. Blacks were going back to the Republican Party, which they had been voting Republican since literally Lincoln up until the Civil Rights Movement, up until about Johnson. That's when they started voting Democrat. It's rather recent change. So they started going back to Republicans because that matches Black culture.
They actually started going back to Republican under Reagan.
Yeah. And that's the 80s. We started to see that change. And that's when we saw in the 90s, they came back with racism is back, that it's a problem again.
Yeah.
Throughout the Clinton administration. And then we got to Obama, and he was the peak of it's a post-racial America. We were already post-racial.
Yep.
And nothing improved under Obama. If anything, we went backwards in time. And Democrats absolutely want us to go backwards in time to the 70s. Notice almost everything whenever they bring up racism, they always tie it to the 1970s, the 1930s, or the 1860s. Why those specific time frames? Because that's when they had the advantage. That's when they want that emotional link. They can't point to anything today.
The only thing that they could point to in the 90s was Rodney King.
A couple of other things, but okay. Yeah, that was one of the big things. There's a few others, but it wasn't even Rodney King. Well, Rodney King, LA, the LA police, that was about policing, about those individuals and policing. It really wasn't about Rodney King. It wasn't because Rodney King was black. It's because Rodney King was a criminal.
Well, there was a subset that tried to make it about Rodney King being black.
Oh, no. In the news media, absolutely. And I'm not saying there weren't some racist cops in LA at that time. There were. We know that, documented. Okay. But again, that's isolated to LA, that city. And across the country, though, that wasn't the mindset.
No, it wasn't.
And that's the thing. They're trying to take that isolated incident, which was in part of the reason why Rodney King was getting beat down is because he's a repeat criminal and a drug dealer at the time. And he was on PCP at the time, which is why he was being beaten up by 7 guys, not one. Not to justify it, not justifying it all, but there are facts that are involved in this that we need to talk about. It's kind of like talking about George Floyd. People want to elevate him to like being some kind of saint. He was a bad person. He was a convict who had not tried to improve his life. He was a criminal to the day he died. And his history was a violent criminal.
Mm-hmm.
He's not some hero. There was nothing heroic about him. And to say that he is, or to be upset that someone said, oh, he's not a hero. How dare you? He was a violent criminal, a violent drug dealing criminal. I'm not sad that man died. Not at all. He shouldn't have died that way. But if it wasn't that way, he was going to die in violence anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. But again, this whole trend of trying to convince people of things that make absolutely no sense. Math is racist. No, it's not. The English language is racist. No, it's not. The roads are racist. No, they're not. Plants are racist. No, they are not. Cannot. These are factually impossible things.
Well, inanimate objects in and of themselves cannot be racist, sexist, or any others.
They can't be anything except an inanimate. A rock is a rock. That's all a rock can be. It doesn't have a choice. There's nothing else. It's a rock. It may want to imagine itself as a glacier. It's still a rock.
No, and it can't even want to imagine itself as a glacier because it is a rock.
Wait a minute. We had pet rocks as kids here now. They were emotional support.
Yeah. They're reminding me of boot camp. You know what I mean, Mike? Boot camp,
Oh, yeah.
You're a rock. Yeah, that's the whole generation. This is when my scene drill instructor was talking about, scene drill instructor Sergeant Williams, when he was talking about rocks, he was talking about Columbia College and the autonomous zone protesters. Rocks, just useless rocks.
Well, guys, we're almost at 2.5 hours. I'm going to get going.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I mean, we're kind of getting way off into the woods now, down the rabbit hole.
Yes.
But with the way our nation's going, it's very easy to do. Okay, folks, do your research. Learn the Constitution. Educate yourselves. We say this every week. Okay. You've got people that are literally trying to tell you that trees are sexist, that roads are racist. Okay. Come on. Start using a little critical thinking. Start educating yourself. Start learning what the true issues are. Quit being gaslit and start taking action. The only way we're going to get our country back is if we take it back. And we can do so. Okay? But only if we start coming together as a country. One of the ways that you can come together as a country is by joining constitutionally based organizations that are working to restore this country back to its constitutional foundation. Liberty First Foundation is one of those organizations. So we are working on our membership drive again this year. We are trying to get our voice louder. And the only way we can do that is with your help. Please spread the word about us. Like, share, comment on our videos. Subscribe so you know when we're coming on. Okay, folks, you guys help us get the word out. Without you, we would just be here. We'd be just talking heads, just discussing stuff. Okay, the audience is what helps us really grow. Okay, with that, we are here every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We will see you all next week. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, guys.